Do you know why you feel anger? Why someone's words can pierce you like an arrow? Why their glances, their judgments, their indifference can awaken in you something so raw, so violent that you almost do not recognize yourself? This is not merely emotion, my friend. It is a signal, a flare that rises from the depths of the unconscious, from the shadowed territories of your psyche that you have not yet dared to enter. When you are triggered by another, you are not truly seeing them, you are seeing yourself, or rather, the part of yourself that you have refused to acknowledge. Anger, irritation, the feeling of being bothered, these are messages from your soul that something within you is unhealed, that you are at war with the aspects of your being that you wish to deny. Let us not pretend that anger is born outside of us. It is not created by other people's actions. It is simply stirred, awakened, and given shape by them. If you wish to never be consumed by the flames of anger, you must begin with the understanding that every trigger is a teacher, and every person who disturbs your peace is a mirror. The face of the enemy is often your own, reflected back to you through the archetypal masks that others wear. I have spent my life wandering the labyrinths of the human soul, and I have discovered that the psyche is not a simple surface, but a deep ocean filled with forgotten gods and ancient dreams. Every anger you feel is a wave rising from that ocean, carrying with it symbols, stories, and images that are far older than you realize. You cannot conquer anger by suppressing it, nor by pretending to be endlessly kind or detached. That is a false spiritualism, a fragile mask. The real mastery comes when you descend into the roots of your reactions, when you ask yourself, why does this wound me? What ancient memory, what buried fear is being touched? You see, we are not merely individuals. We are archetypal beings living out patterns that have existed since the dawn of time. When someone provokes you, it is often because they have awakened the archetype of the victim, or the child, or the warrior within you. Perhaps they remind you of the tyrannical father you once feared, or the cold mother who withheld love. The present moment is never just the present. It is layered with all the unresolved fragments of your past. That is why the smallest slight can feel like an unbearable weight. You are not reacting to what is happening now. You are reacting to centuries of inner history. To never be angered by anyone, you must first become intimate with your shadow. The shadow is that part of your psyche which contains all that you have repressed, dénié, or dimé unacceptable. It is the realm of qualities that you project onto others, the arrogance you see in your colleague, the cruelty you notice in a stranger, the selfishness you despise in your partner. These are not random flaws in others. They are fragments of yourself that you have cast into the darkness, and they return to you as reflections, demanding recognition. The moment you look into the eyes of your shadow and say, I see you, I know you are mine, the power of anger begins to dissolve. For what can others awaken in you when you have already made peace with all that you are? Imagine for a moment that your life is a theater. Every person you meet is an actor on this stage. and they are playing roles that you unconsciously assigned to them. One becomes a betrayer, another the critic, another the rescuer, another the fool. And you, without realizing it, are both the director and the spectator. When you are angered, it is often because the actor is refusing to play the role you desire, or because they are playing it too perfectly, exposing a story within you that you have not yet healed. To achieve psychological mastery, you must step off the stage and enter the director's chair. You must see the play for what it is, an unfolding drama of your own psyche. There is no liberation in blaming others for your emotional storms. Blame is the language of a fragmented soul. It keeps you chained to the illusion that the world must change for you to find peace. But the truth, my friend, is that the world is not here to soothe you. It is here to awaken you. The people who irritate you the most are often the ones who carry your deepest medicine. They bring to light the wounds you have buried so deeply that you forgot they existed. And so you rage not at them, but at the memory of pain they stir within you. To never be angry again, you must become a master of your inner symbols, an interpreter of the language of the unconscious. I once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is never more true than when you are triggered, when you feel the fire of anger rise in your chest, when someone's words pierce you like a spear. Pause. Do not react. Step into the silence of the observer. Ask yourself, what in me is being revealed? Do not flee from this question. It is the key to your freedom. True psychological mastery is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to transmute emotion into understanding. It is the power to hold the tension between what hurts and what heals, between darkness and light, without collapsing into either extreme. Anger, when understood, becomes a doorway to insight. It tells you where you are still enslaved by old stories, where you are still bound to the patterns of your ancestors. And yes, make no mistake, much of your anger does not even belong to you. It is inherited, passed down through generations of unspoken wounds. Through the collective shadow of humanity, you are carrying not only your own unhealed past, but the unresolved grief of those who came before you. To master anger is also to break this ancestral chain. The unconscious speaks to us in symbols, a dream of fire, of broken glass, of a dark forest. These are not random images. They are messages, and anger too is a kind of dream. It is a symbol of power, misdirected, a force that has been turned outward because it is too painful to turn inward. But if you can take that same energy and hold it with awareness, it becomes creative rather than destructive. It becomes the fire of transformation, the alchemical flame that burns away the false self. I ask you then, who is truly your enemy? The person who insults you, the stranger who cuts you off on the road, the colleague who challenges your ideas. No, these are but messengers. Your real adversary is the unexamined self, the inner tyrant, who whispers that you are unworthy, that you must defend yourself, that you must fight for validation. When you conquer this inner tyrant, the outer world can no longer disturb you. You become as still as the mountain, as vast as the sky. People may shout, they may project, they may try to wound you, but their arrows fall harmlessly at your feet, for you are no longer living from the fragile ego. You are rooted in the eternal self. This self, as I have discovered, is not just personal but universal. It is the archetype of wholeness, the divine pattern that underlies all existence. When you are connected to the self, the noise of the world cannot reach you. You see through the illusions, the petty conflicts, the masks that others wear. You realize that their anger, their judgments, their provocations are not truly about you. They are about them, their shadows, their wounds, their unconscious pain. And instead of reacting with anger, you feel a strange compassion. You see the child in them, the frightened, unloved child who lashes out because it knows no other way. This is not weakness. It is power. The power to see beyond the veil, but I must warn you, this mastery is not won cheaply. It demands that you look into your own darkness with unflinching honesty. It demands that you face the parts of yourself you have denied, the rage, the jealousy, the resentment, the fear. Do not pretend you are without these qualities. You are human, and the human soul is a paradoxical mixture of light and shadow. Only by embracing this totality can you be free. Those who claim to be pure, who deny their darkness, are often the ones most easily provoked because they are living in illusion. Do not follow that path. Instead, befriend your shadow. Let it speak. Let it show you what it needs. Then, when someone tries to provoke you, you will find there is nothing left to awaken. The fire has already been burned clean. Do not underestimate the shadow's influence. Most people live their entire lives under its command, believing they are rational, believing they are free, while their every reaction is dictated by wounds they have never dared to face. When someone says something that offends you, why do you respond with fire? It is because you recognize somewhere in that remark a fragment of truth or a deep-seated fear. Perhaps they call you selfish, and you feel enraged, not because you are selfish, but because you have spent your life trying to prove you are not. The anger is not towards them. It is towards the idea that you are still carrying chains, that your worth is still defined by the judgment of others. When you understand this, you begin to see that your anger is a key to liberation. Every trigger is like a compass pointing toward an inner wound that requires healing. Instead of seeing the trigger as an enemy, treat it as a signal. Ask, what in me is unresolved? What story am I still telling myself that gives this person so much power over my emotions? The answer will not always be comfortable. It may take you back to your childhood, to moments when you were belittled, ignored, or dismissed. It may force you to confront the fact that much of your adult anger is simply the echo of a child who never felt seen. To break free, you must be willing to sit with the discomfort of your own emotions. Do not rush to silence them. Do not suppress them with false positivity or spiritual bypassing. Feel the anger fully, but do not become it. Watch it rise and fall like a wave. become the observer of your own inner storm. In that moment of awareness, you reclaim your power. You realize that you are not the anger. You are the one who is watching it. When I speak of mastery, I do not mean cold indifference. I mean the ability to choose. Most people do not choose their reactions. They are slaves to them. An insult comes and they lash out. A rejection comes and they collapse. A misunderstanding arises and they burn with resentment. But the one who has learned to understand their psyche, the one who has explored their inner landscape, does not react blindly. They respond consciously. If at all, they understand that anger is not a command, but an invitation to look deeper, to ask, what is this really about? I want you to imagine your mind as a great temple. Inside this temple, there are many rooms, some filled with light, others locked and covered in dust. When you are triggered, a door is forced open to one of these hidden rooms. Inside, you will find memories you have long forgotten, emotions you have not allowed yourself to feel. Most people slam the door shut again, thinking, I do not want to see this. But if you have courage, you step inside, you bring a lantern, you ask, what lives here? What part of me has been waiting to be acknowledged? And when you bring light to that room, the trigger dissolves. It has no power anymore because the lesson has been learned. There is a profound truth I want you to grasp. No one can make you feel anything unless there is already a seed of that feeling inside you. If someone calls you a liar, and you know with absolute certainty that you are truthful, you will not feel anger. You will simply see their words as meaningless. But if you feel a surge of emotion, if you feel the need to defend yourself, then perhaps part of you doubts your own honesty. Or perhaps you carry a wound of being misunderstood. That is why the insult stings. The external world is always pointing to the inner world. You cannot control what people will say or do. The world is unpredictable. And human beings are complex creatures, each carrying their own shadows, their own pain. But you can control how deeply you are affected. You do this by becoming whole. When you have integrated the shadow, when you have faced your own darkness and embraced it, the world can no longer easily disturb you. You see people not as enemies, but as mirrors. And instead of reacting with anger, you respond with curiosity or compassion. This does not mean you become passive or allow others to mistreat you. No. Mastery does not mean submission. It means clarity. It means you are no longer reactive. You act from choice, from strength. When someone crosses a boundary, you can say no without anger. When someone tries to provoke you, you can stand firm without needing to prove anything. You know who you are, and that knowing is unshakable. Let us speak of the ego for a moment, because it is the ego that is most easily triggered. The ego is a mask we wear, the persona we show the world. It is fragile because it is built on the approval of others. When someone criticizes us, the ego feels attacked, as though its very survival is at risk. But the self, the deeper, eternal self, is untouchable. It does not depend on praise or blame. It is like the sun, shining whether or not anyone notices. When you shift your identity from ego to self, you find that most of what once angered you no longer matters. The opinions of others lose their power because you are no longer living for them. There is a practice I wish for you to try. The next time someone angers you, instead of reacting, close your eyes and ask, who is being hurt right now? You will notice that it is not your true self, but your ego, your old wounds, your unhealed parts. Then imagine embracing that part of you as you would a child who is frightened. Say to it, I see you. I know you are hurting. It is all right. In doing this, you take back your power. You stop projecting your pain onto the world and instead hold it with love until it transforms. The path to never being triggered is not a path of avoidance. It is not about isolating yourself or cutting off every person who challenges you. It is about becoming so rooted in your own being that you no longer see challenges as threats, but as opportunities to deepen your understanding. Every time you feel anger rise, it is a chance to practice awareness, to strengthen the connection between your conscious mind and your unconscious depths. Remember, this anger is a form of energy. Energy cannot be destroyed, but it can be transformed. When you learn to observe your anger without judgment, it begins to shift. It becomes clarity, focus, even creativity. Some of the greatest works of art, some of the deepest breakthroughs in life have come from individuals who knew how to take their emotional fire and use it as fuel rather than letting it burn them. The mastery I am speaking of does not happen overnight. It is the work of a lifetime. It is the work of individuation, the process of becoming whole, of integrating all the fragments of yourself into a harmonious totality. You must be willing to meet your shadow, to speak with it, to understand what it wants. Do not think of the shadow as evil. It is not. It is simply the parts of you that were rejected, often in childhood, because they did not fit into the persona you believed you needed to survive. But these parts are powerful. They hold your strength, your passion, your authenticity. When you embrace them, you stop being a victim of your own unconscious. The world will never stop testing you. People will lie, misunderstand, criticize, or even betray you. If you expect a life free of confrontation or misunderstanding, you will remain trapped in frustration. But when you accept that the world is a mirror reflecting not only your inner wounds but also your inner strength, you begin to use these challenges as tools for growth. Every trigger becomes an invitation to go deeper, to ask, what is this teaching me about myself? The one who asks this question sincerely is the one who will eventually become unshakable. Most of what you call anger is not anger at all. It is fear, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of losing control. Anger is simply fear dressed in armor. When you feel provoked, pause and ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of? In this moment, if you are honest, you will see that the trigger is pointing you toward a wound you have not healed, and in that recognition lies your power, because you can choose to heal instead of blame. When I speak of the shadow, I do not mean some abstract concept. The shadow is alive within you. It is the voice that whispers judgments about others, the voice that criticizes, envies, or despises. But this voice is not evil. It is simply a messenger. It is saying, look here, this trait you despise in others, it is part of you too. Integrated, and you will no longer be controlled by it. Most people project their shadow endlessly, seeing the world as hostile because they cannot face what lives within themselves. But if you have the courage to reclaim your shadow, you find that what once enraged you now leaves you untouched. You have dissolved the mirror. Imagine two people arguing. Each believes the other is wrong. Each is convinced of their own righteousness. What they do not see is that they are simply projecting onto each other the very qualities they cannot accept in themselves. One accuses the other of being selfish, not realizing that their anger comes from their own fear of appearing selfish. The other accuses them of being weak, not realizing they are projecting their own buried feelings of vulnerability. If just one of them were to stop, to look inward, to ask, what is really mine in this argument, the whole dynamic would collapse. There would be nothing left to fight over, because the true battle is always within. You must understand that the mind is a battlefield. The war you fight with others is only a reflection of the war you fight with yourself. If you want peace with the world, you must first make peace with your own contradictions. Do not seek to destroy your anger, seek to understand it. Do not try to erase your triggers, seek to learn from them. Every time you feel a surge of emotion, it is your psyche showing you where you are still divided, where you have not yet become whole. One of the most powerful practices you can undertake is to watch your reactions as though they belong to someone else. When someone insults you, observe the sensation in your body. Notice how your chest tightens, how your breath quickens, how your mind races with thoughts of retaliation. Then ask yourself, who is watching this? Who is the one that sees this reaction? This simple question brings you into the seat of awareness. It's a place where you are no longer enslaved by the emotion, but are instead the witness of it. From that place, you can choose whether to respond or remain silent. That is true power. You may believe that avoiding triggers means avoiding people or isolating yourself. But isolation is not mastery. It is fear disguised as wisdom. True mastery means you can walk through any situation, any conversation, any conflict, and remain rooted in your center. It means that the storms of life may swirl around you, but inside there is calm. This is not because you have become numb, but because you have become conscious. To reach this level of consciousness, you must dismantle the false identities you have built. Many of your triggers come from defending a persona that is not even your true self. You get offended when someone questions your intelligence because you have tied your worth to appearing smart. You feel anger when someone dismisses your efforts because you have tied your identity to being seen as successful. But who are you when all these labels fall away? Who are you when you are not trying to prove anything? The more you identify with the deeper self rather than the persona, the less anything external can disturb you. Do not be afraid of those who challenge you. They are often the ones who awaken your hidden strength. Think of the blacksmith who forges steel. It is the hammer that gives the blade its edge. Similarly, those who provoke you are helping shape your inner mastery. If you are willing to learn from the experience, but if you resist, if you cling to the ego's need to be right, you will remain brittle and easily broken. There is a concept I call holding the tension of opposites. Life is full of contradictions, love and hate, fear and courage, darkness and light. Most people try to escape this tension by choosing one side and rejecting the other. But the true alchemist holds both without being consumed by either. When someone triggers you, instead of collapsing into anger or forcing yourself into artificial calmness, hold both. Feel the anger fully, but also hold the awareness of your higher self. In this tension, something miraculous happens. The energy of the emotion transforms into wisdom. You are no longer reactive. You are creative. This is the essence of psychological mastery. You do not suppress your emotions, you integrate them. You do not deny your shadow, you befriend it. You do not run from your pain, you listen to it until it reveals its meaning. In this way, every trigger becomes an ally. Every conflict becomes a path to greater self-knowledge. You might ask, but how do I begin? How do I practice this in daily life? Start with awareness. The next time you feel triggered, do not react immediately. Pause. Take a breath. Notice what is happening in your body. Then ask yourself, what story am I telling right now? What am I believing about myself or the other person that is causing this reaction? Often, you will find that the story is an old one, something from childhood, something that no longer serves you. When you see this clearly, the trigger loses its power. Another step is to consciously work with your shadow. Write down the qualities you most dislike in others. Then ask yourself, where in my life do I express this quality? Even in small ways, where am I afraid of being seen as this? This is difficult work, but it is transformative. The more you integrate these qualities, the less power they have to control you. There is a profound freedom waiting for you on the other side of your anger. Imagine a life where the words and actions of others no longer shake your core, where you move through the world with a quiet confidence that is not dependent on external approval. This is not an impossible dream. It is the natural state of a person who has fully met themselves. When you understand your shadow, when you integrate your wounds, you become immune to the emotional turbulence that once controlled you. But I must emphasize, mastery is not a single moment of awakening. It is a continuous process. You cannot decide once and for all, I will never be triggered again, and expect that to hold without effort. Life will continue to send tests, because life itself is the teacher. These triggers are not here to punish you, but to polish you. They are like stones in a river, smoothing you into your true shape through constant flow and friction. To remain untriggered is to shift your relationship with life. Most people live in a reactive state, constantly pulled between what they like and dislike, what they want and fear. This is not freedom, it is slavery to the unconscious mind. Real freedom comes when you no longer seek to control the external world, but instead cultivate mastery over your inner world. When someone insults you, you can either give them your energy by reacting, or you can simply see it for what it is, a projection of their own pain. An attempt to hand you the burden. They cannot carry themselves. Why take it? Why make the shadow your own? In truth, people rarely see you as you are. They see you through the lens of their own wounds, their own beliefs, their own limitations. When they speak to you, they are often speaking to a version of you they have constructed in their mind, a version that may have little to do with your true self. So why let their words disturb your peace? Their judgment says far more about them than it does about you. This is why I often say the world will ask you to react, but your power lies in choosing not to. Do not confuse this with weakness. It takes far greater strength to remain calm in the face of provocation than it does to lash out. The reactive mind is like dry grass, easily set aflame by the smallest spark. The conscious mind is like a river flowing steadily, unshaken by falling leaves. One practice that will serve you well is the cultivation of inner silence. When someone provokes you, do not respond immediately. Instead, take 3 deep breaths and enter into the stillness of your own being. In that silence, you will often see that the anger is simply a wave passing through you, not something you need to hold on to. If you allow it to rise and fall naturally, it will dissolve, leaving clarity in its wake. The journey of individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires this kind of awareness. You cannot become your true self while you are constantly entangled in the projections and judgments of others. Every time you are triggered, if you are given a choice, will you remain a prisoner of your old patterns? Or will you use this moment as a doorway to deeper self-understanding? Those who choose the latter eventually find that life no longer feels like a battlefield, but like a conversation. Even difficult encounters become opportunities to see themselves more clearly. Consider, for example, how you feel when someone criticizes you. Does it feel like a personal attack, or can you see it as information? If the criticism has merit, you can use it to grow. If it does not, why let it touch you? The only reason criticism hurts is because it strikes at a part of you that is uncertain or insecure. When you know who you are, the opinions of others cannot harm you. They may sting for a moment, but they cannot shake your foundation. This is why I encourage you to spend time every day in self-reflection. Ask yourself, where did I feel anger today? Why? What does this reveal about me? Do not do this with harshness or self-blame, but with curiosity. Treat your triggers as clues, as pieces of a puzzle that all assemble reveal the full picture of your inner life. The more you understand these patterns, the less they control you. I will tell you something that may seem paradoxical. The path to never being triggered is not to avoid anger, but to meet it fully. When you feel anger, do not push it away. Sit with it. Ask it what it wants to teach you. Often, you will find that anger arises to show you where you have not set clear boundaries, where you have allowed others to cross lines that matter to you. In such cases, anger is not an enemy, it is a signal that you need to stand in your truth. But when you express this truth from a place of calm strength rather than reactive rage, it carries far greater power. You must also learn the art of detachment. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means recognizing that you are not defined by the actions or opinions of others. It means holding your inner center no matter what storms rage around you. Think of a tree in the wind. The branches may sway, the leaves may fall, but the roots remain anchored deep in the earth. Be like that tree. Let life move around you, but stay rooted in who you are There is another key compassion. When you understand that those who trigger you are often acting from their own pain, your anger naturally softens. You see them not as enemies, but as wounded souls, much like yourself. This does not mean you tolerate harmful behavior, but it does mean you no longer take it personally. You recognize that their actions are about their own struggles, not about you. In that recognition, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. To live without being triggered is to live from the self, not the ego. The ego is fragile, always seeking validation, always fearing attack. The self, on the other hand, is vast, timeless, and unshakable. When you connect with the self through meditation, reflection, or deep inner work, you discover a peace that is not dependent on anything outside you. It is this peace that allows you to remain calm even in the midst of chaos. To master your inner world is to realize that life itself is not a battle to win, but a mirror to understand. What angers you today will not anger you tomorrow. Once you have seen the truth, it is trying to reveal. Every trigger is like a torchlight pointing toward an unexamined corner of your mind. If you look where it shines, you will discover old fears, old beliefs, old stories that no longer serve you. If you ignore it, the same trigger will appear again and again through different people and different situations until you learn its lesson. This is the way of the unconscious. It does not stop knocking until you answer. Many of the conflicts in your life are not random. They are repeating patterns, signals from the deeper parts of your psyche, asking for recognition until you listen. These patterns will continue to provoke you, for they are the voice of your shadow trying to come home. You must learn to ask yourself a powerful question whenever you are disturbed. What in me needs healing right now? This question takes you out of the mindset of blame and into the mindset of understanding. It shifts your focus from the external world to the internal one. When someone says something cruel or dismissive, instead of immediately reacting, pause and look inward. Does their comment touch on an old wound of not being valued? Does it awaken a childhood memory where you felt invisible or unloved? If so, then the anger you feel is not about this person, but about that old wound. And when you heal that wound, this person loses their power to disturb you. To never be triggered is not to harden your heart. It is not to become indifferent or cold. On the contrary, it is to become so aware of your inner landscape that you can face all emotions, anger, sadness, fear, without being consumed by them. It is to hold these emotions with presence, to let them speak, and then to release them. This is what I call emotional alchemy. You transform the raw energy of anger into the gold of insight. You turn the heavy lead of resentment into the lightness of understanding. Many people believe that anger is bad, that it must be avoided or suppressed, but suppression only strengthens what is hidden. Anger is not your enemy. It is a messenger telling you where something in your life feels out of alignment. Perhaps someone has crossed a boundary. Perhaps you have betrayed your own values. Perhaps you are living a life that does not reflect your true self. Anger, when listened to consciously, can guide you back to your truth. But the key is this: you must respond to anger with awareness not reaction. When anger arises, ask yourself, what does this emotion want me to know? Do not immediately project it outward onto others. Do not use it to wound. Instead, turn inward and let the anger show you where your own power lies. Often, beneath anger is a deep longing for respect, for safety, for love. When you meet that longing directly, the anger loses its sharpness, it becomes softer, more like a signal than a fire. It is also essential to recognize that not all triggers are personal. Sometimes you are simply carrying the collective pain of humanity. We are all connected through the collective unconscious. And when a cultural wound is activated, such as injustice, cruelty, or betrayal, you may feel anger not just for yourself, but for the suffering of the whole. This kind of anger can be transformed into action, into a force for positive change. But even here, mastery means that you act from clarity, not from blind rage. You channel the energy rather than being consumed by it. Let me remind you of something that may feel uncomfortable but is profoundly liberating. Other people's behavior is not about you. Their anger, their criticism for their hostility. These are reflections of their own unresolved pain. When someone attacks you with words or actions, they are often projecting onto you the very things they cannot face within themselves. If you take it personally, you are agreeing to carry their burden. Why do that? You can acknowledge their pain without making it your own. This is where compassion becomes your shield. When you see that others act out of fear, confusion, or hurt, your anger naturally softens. You stop seeing them as villains and start seeing them as humans, just like you who are struggling with their own shadows. This does not mean you allow them to harm you. Healthy boundaries are essential, but you can set boundaries without anger, without hatred. You can say no firmly while remaining at peace inside. The highest form of mastery is when no one's behavior can disturb your inner balance. This does not happen through force, but through understanding. When you know who you are, when you have integrated your shadow and made peace with your past, you no longer need validation from the outside world. You are no longer controlled by fear of rejection or criticism. You simply live from your truth, and that truth is unshakable. But to reach this state, you must do the work. You must spend time in silence, listening to your inner voice. You must face the parts of yourself you have long avoided, the anger, the jealousy, for the shame, and bring them into the light of awareness. This is not easy, but it is the only path to real freedom. As long as you are running from your shadow, you will remain reactive. But when you turn to face it, when you integrate it, you become whole. One of the simplest yet most profound practices you can try is this. Whenever you are triggered, instead of asking, why did they do this to me, ask, what is this showing me about me? This question changes everything. It takes you out of victimhood and into empowerment. You realize that life is not happening to you, but for you. Every experience, even the painful ones, is there to help you evolve. You might wonder, but if I no longer get angry, won't I lose my passion? Won't I become too passive? The answer is no. True passion does not come from anger. It comes from clarity. When you are no longer ruled by your triggers, you have more energy, not less. You can focus that energy on what truly matters, rather than wasting it on emotional battles that lead nowhere. You become more creative, more compassionate, more powerful, because you are no longer bleeding energy through constant reactivity. And let me tell you this, when you stop being easily triggered, you become untouchable, not in a cold or distant way, but in a grounded, radiant way. People sense your stability. They feel your presence, and it calms them. You become like a mountain, solid, rooted, immovable. Not because you are hard, but because you are whole. The storms may rage around you, but they cannot shake your foundation. There comes a moment on this path when you realize that every person who once irritated or angered you was, in truth, a silent teacher. The harsh words, the criticisms, the misunderstandings, they were all instruments that carved away the false layers of your identity, forcing you to see what you had hidden within yourself. Those who triggered you were not enemies, but sculptors, shaping you into a deeper, more conscious being. When this realization dawns, gratitude begins to replace anger. You no longer see life as something to endure, but as a sacred process of self-discovery. Do not misunderstand me. This does not mean you must accept harmful behavior or allow others to mistreat you. Boundaries are a natural expression of self-respect, but the difference between a reactive boundary and a conscious boundary is vast. A reactive boundary says, I hate you for hurting me, so I will push you away. A conscious boundary says, I value my peace and my well-being, so I will not allow this behavior, but I hold no anger toward you. This is the true art of mastery, firmness without hostility, strength without aggression. Anger thrives in the absence of awareness. It lives in the shadows of misunderstanding. When you shine the light of consciousness upon it, anger cannot survive. It transforms into understanding, into clarity. And when you have clarity, you can act with precision and purpose. You can respond to life not with emotional outbursts, but with calm intention. This transformation requires courage, because it demands that you face the very parts of yourself you have feared. It is easier to blame the world for your anger than to look within and see where you have been hiding from yourself. But if you are willing to take that inner journey, the rewards are immeasurable. You will no longer be a prisoner of other people's moods, their opinions, their projections. You will be free, free to live, free to love, free to be yourself without apology. You might ask, what does it truly mean to never be triggered again? Is it even possible? The answer lies not in avoiding triggers, but in mastering the way you meet them. You may still feel the first wave of emotion when someone provokes you. That is natural. For you are human, but you will no longer be swept away by it. You will see the wave rise, and instead of drowning, you will ride it, watching as it dissolves into nothing. You become the witness, the one who is aware, and from that place of awareness, you are untouchable. This is what I call psychological sovereignty. It is the state where your inner world is no longer at the mercy of external forces. People may try to provoke you, but you do not react blindly. Situations may test you, but you do not lose yourself. You remain centered, grounded in the knowledge that your peace comes from within, not from the approval or behavior of others. To cultivate this sovereignty, there are three key principles I wish for you to remember. First, self-awareness is everything. Every time you feel anger or irritation, turn your gaze inward, observe the thoughts that arise, the stories your mind tells, sensations in your body. Do not judge them. Simply watch. This act of observation alone creates distance between you and the emotion. It reminds you that you are not your anger, you are the awareness that sees it. Second, embrace your shadow. The qualities that disturb you in others often reflect aspects of yourself you have rejected. Instead of projecting these qualities outward, bring them home, acknowledge them, understand them, and integrate them. The more you accept all parts of yourself, the less the external world can provoke you. Third, live from your deeper self, not your ego. The ego is fragile, constantly seeking validation, always fearing attack. But the self, the eternal, archetypal core of your being, is unshakable. When you live from the self, you no longer need to defend your worth. You know who you are, and that knowing cannot be touched by anyone's opinion or action. The path of mastery is not a quick fix. It is a journey of patience, honesty, and dedication. But every step you take brings you closer to freedom. Imagine waking up each day knowing that no matter what happens, no matter who says what, you will not be dragged into unnecessary suffering. Imagine having the ability to remain calm, clear, and grounded, even in the midst of chaos. This is not fantasy. It is the natural result of inner work. Life will still present challenges. You will still encounter people who test your boundaries, who push your buttons, but instead of seeing these moments as threats, you will see them as opportunities. Each trigger becomes a portal, a doorway inviting you to rise above your old patterns and embody a higher state of consciousness. This is the true meaning of psychological mastery, not the absence of challenges, but the presence of unshakable awareness. And so I leave you with this. The next time you feel anger rising, pause, take a breath. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, ask, what is this showing me about me? If you live by this question, you will discover a freedom you have never known. The world may remain chaotic, but inside there will be a stillness that cannot be broken. This is not merely an idea, it is a practice, a way of being. Each moment of your life offers you a choice. Will you react, or will you respond with awareness? Will you let the shadows of the past control you, or will you bring them into the light and transform them? The choice is yours. And in that choice lies your true power. You were not born to be at war with yourself. You were not born to be endlessly triggered by the world. You were born to become whole, to see the unity of light and shadow within you, and to live from that wholeness. When you do, anger will no longer own you. It will rise and fall like a passing cloud, and you will remain like the sky, vast, open and serene. Remember this truth: the one who is at peace within cannot be disturbed by the storms without. Find that peace, and you will never again be a prisoner of your triggers. You will be free, utterly, beautifully free,